Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about why I picked up a Nintendo Switch Lite in 2024. Now, it seems like a bit of an odd decision to pick up a Switch Lite over a normal Nintendo Switch. After all, they both have a lot of the same capabilities. The only difference, really, is that this doesn't connect to a TV. So why would I go with a Switch Lite? Well, to understand why I picked Switch Lite in 2024, I first have to tell you about my first interaction with Nintendo Switch. I was an early adopter of Nintendo Switch, and I picked it up around the same time that Mario Odyssey released. Now, Mario Odyssey was a really good Nintendo game. I enjoyed it. Obviously, I didn't get around to playing Zelda on the Nintendo Switch, but I knew it was out there, and the catalogue of games on Nintendo have always been great. They have a lot of exclusives, they do a lot of releases, and obviously, that's why I was an early adopter. But the issue I ran into with the full-size Switch, or the official Switch, whatever you want to call it, was that it felt like it was a console trying to be too many things. It was definitely a handheld, but it felt like it's a handheld with console capabilities at home, if that makes sense. Or it's a console with handheld capabilities, and it felt like this weird hybrid where I didn't really want another console, but also I didn't really want another handheld. I was like in this weird position. And in saying that, I just kind of was like, meh, I like the Odyssey, but apart from Odyssey, like, I don't really care. So I ended up giving my Nintendo Switch away to a family member, and they have enjoyed it ever so much. They have played Animal Crossing and every other game you could possibly imagine. But for many years, I didn't even look back at Nintendo Switch. Until recently, when I saw this in a secondary shop around Sydney, and I ended up getting this for really cheap. Like, this was, I think because it has a big scratch on the screen, they heavily reduced this to get rid of it. So I picked it up and was like, you know what, I'll give it another go. And I fell in love with it. The reason I fell in love with it was because it is not like the original Switch. This you cannot even connect to a TV. You can't plug anything in there to connect it to a TV. So there is no video output chip in this thing. That said, it stands a lot better as a handheld console, in my view. And they shrunk it down a bit smaller. The Joy-Cons don't remove. It's got that nice little, almost DS-like form factor. And yeah, it's really sturdy. And I just like that about the Switch. The Switch Lite feels like the perfected version of what Nintendo should have done. Now look, people will say, oh no, I love playing Mario Odyssey on TV, I love playing Zelda on TV, I love playing all these games on TV, I love playing Xenoblade on TV, or whatever that game is called. I don't really like to experience games that way. If I choose to play on a TV, I will usually go towards a PlayStation or when I had an Xbox, I would typically choose Xbox One X until I gave it away to a family member. I do this with a lot of my consoles. But yeah, PS5 at the moment is when I choose to play on a TV, I'll typically play the PS5. Now, obviously, Nintendo has a catalogue of titles that are not available on any other consoles. Mario and Zelda, I've mentioned many times, Kirby as well. Um, but what I like about the handheld version is that it's not taking up space near my TV. It's not meant to be a what is it called? Like a home console, if that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely got capabilities with the other models of being a home console, and nor does Nintendo try to compete with the other consoles. They're not trying to do 4K. They're not trying to be the market leader. I mean, obviously everyone's trying to be the market leader, but they're just worried about doing their own thing, essentially. I mean, I think they're thinking about Switch 2 and they're talking about it may be as powerful as the PlayStation 4. But you know, that would still be an upgrade from this because this is 720p. But let's turn this on, and another thing I really like about this, that iconic Nintendo logo, is that essentially, as I said, it feels like a perfected version of what I wanted from the Switch initially, which was a handheld. And Not a handheld that you remove Joy-Cons from and create controllers and it can connect to your TV and do too much. It's just like, just give me a really good handheld. Nintendo for many years were the handheld king. Like nobody competed in that space with Nintendo. Obviously, you had devices in that space. You obviously had stuff like the PSP existing, but for many decades, Nintendo has been the market leader in handheld. And yes, the Switch, the full-size Switch, is a handheld at heart. It is also a console at heart. But I like with this version, let's turn this back on. I'll press the home button. And there's the home screen. Now, obviously, there are a few things on here like Game Boy and that. That's part of the subscription service. That's subscription service that they offer, and I am subscribed to that. You get Sega Genesis. They've also got a Sega deal or something. But the thing I like about this as well is Nintendo have focused very heavily on physical media. Like I can get physical copies of Nintendo games. Obviously, not everything's available. But for example, let's see what I got in here at the moment. I've got obviously nothing in there. Let's have a look. Let's see what I got available. I haven't got the covers right next to me, but I've obviously got the case next to me. So there we go. I've got Crash Bandicoot. I played Crash Bandicoot on here, Insane Trilogy, and I like that it's just it's a bit more bulky. It's a bit more of an experience, but the fact that I can just pop in a game and go bang, ready to play in a second's notice, done. And I can just hit the go button and it'll go. I don't have to mess around too much with jumping up, getting next to the TV, and trying to essentially play it on console or try to play it like a home console. And I love to experience a handheld, a really good handheld. This is a really good handheld. It's got the same footprint, essentially, in terms of screen size, to the iPhone I'm filming this with, right here. But that's what I love about the Switch, and that's why I've picked one up in 2024. Because it isn't everything else. It feels now like almost a Game Boy. And the Game Boy, for many generations, was the king of handheld. Until obviously the DS came along, and the DS dominated everything. But, yeah. With the Switch Lite, I found that you still get the same performance from Nintendo. Obviously, they're not making any downgrades in terms of performance. It still runs as great as anything. The downgrades are more with the video output. And let me put it this way. If you have children who intend to play these on a TV, if you have any intention to play this on TV or as a home console, definitely it's worth paying a bit extra to get the normal Nintendo Switch that has those capabilities. For me, I just wanted a really good handheld. I wanted a really good battery life. This handles battery life really well. I like the Joy-Cons on here are very much attached. They're not something that takes off. You don't get to take those off. And I like that it kind of feels like a perfected design. It feels like something that is dedicated handheld, not meant to be a home console. And obviously it can't be played as a home console. So that is what I love about it. And that's why I fall in love with it. As I said, I played Crash Bandicoot on there. And playing Crash on a handheld is just mind-boggling to me. And the fact that it's like, oh, but it's a handheld that's actually a console. It's like, no, this is an actual handheld. And yes, you might say, oh, it has Switch internals, which it definitely does. But it also, it does a really good job of handling the games. And it also, look at that form factor. Like, I could fit this into one of my pockets. It's that small. And compared to the other Switch, I couldn't do that with the other Switch. I couldn't put that in my pocket. It would have been a bit of a sight to try to fit a Switch in my pocket. Is that a Switch in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? But, yeah, we're just being silly now. So why would I recommend you pick up a Switch in 2024? Or a Switch Lite, I should say. Well, obviously, it comes down to preference. If you're someone who likes to save a bit of money and doesn't need to have a console on your TV, if you're someone who doesn't want to play it on your TV, you might want to play this at work or at somewhere, or when you're on a journey, or when you're on a train or something, this might be the console for you. It handles a lot of things better than the full-size Switch, the actual main Switch. It also has all the same capabilities except for video out. So you're not really compromising too much unless you intend to use it as a home console, which it's not capable of. And also, it's a Nintendo. And you can usually get these things pretty cheap. As I said, I got this in a secondary shop, which I'm not going to call what I called it before because people were idiots in my comments. And so I got this at a secondary shop in Sydney, and on the secondary market, and it was really, really cheap. Like I paid, I believe, $170 for it, which, you know what, I could have probably got a brand new one for $150 at another one, but this one I tested. This one was open, the other one wasn't. This one was able to be tested there on the spot. I gave it a test, paid cash for it, and said, can you bring it down a bit further? And I honestly think this one is the version for me. Yes, it has imperfections. It has a scratch on the screen. It has all these imperfections, which probably was the reason why no one wanted it, and they had to keep reducing it. But for me, I don't even see the scratches on the screen when I'm playing it. It is very much... You can get these things for very cheap. They are very portable. And as long as you have reservations that you can't play this on TV... Like, I haven't once thought, oh, I should probably try to connect it up to the TV. I've definitely tried it one time just to see if it could be done, but I haven't regretted my decision. I definitely use this as a handheld and don't think, oh, I could be playing this on the TV because, as I said, I have a PlayStation 5. I don't really need or feel the need to go down that route and say I need to connect it up to my TV. Now with the Switch 2, I might see what they do with that, and I might have different ideas. But for right now, at this point in time, I wanted a really good handheld, and Nintendo really delivered on this product. This, in my view, is the best handheld they've ever done, since the Game Boy, obviously. I mean, we have Nintendo DS there as well. Nintendo DS was a monster in that space. It completely destroyed everything. It completely ran over everyone else. It was so good. But for me and my nostalgia, this feels like it's the same form factor as like a Game Boy almost. It's like I can fit it in my pocket. I can take it with me. It's a game, like it's a Game Boy Color. Like it's got the same footprint almost. It's a tiny bit bigger than my phone. Like it is something that is so portable. There is no reason not to take it. Whereas I could not do that with the original Switch. I couldn't justify that. It felt like it had to be beefed up a bit more because it was a home console and it had to have the capabilities of video out and it had to do all this other stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. When I say all this, if this had the ability to play at home, I would love to at least have the capability available should I change my mind down the track. But then, that brings with it a whole other can of worms. Like, I think there's potential for a Switch, Nintendo Switch. I mean, they've already got the Switch Lite now, but a smaller version of the main Switch that can have console capabilities on your TV, that doesn't need a dock, that doesn't need all this other stuff. But for right now, I am very happy with the Switch Lite. I believe it is the perfected version of what I wanted from Nintendo to begin with. And I've been playing this like mad. I've played this more times this year than I have played my PlayStation 5. And the reason for that is because it delivers games that are unique. I've done another video previously about how there are just about no games on the PS5, and it kind of annoys me. And I get there are games on the PS5. I'm not trying to say that there is nothing to play. What I'm saying is that there are no exclusives. Most of it is still released on the PS4, or if it's released on the PS5, it's a remaster from a PS4 game or a PS3 game. And it just feels like there are no genuine exclusive standalone titles on the PS5. Whereas this, you have Mario, you have Zelda, you have Kirby, you have everything. Even, I think Sonic released further outside of this, but, you have all of these IPs. Sonic is obviously Sega, but, Sega and Nintendo work very closely. I think there's potential for Nintendo to buy out Sega eventually. I mean, they're both the same size company, so I don't know how one buys the other, obviously. But, when I play something like Sonic on this, I feel almost like that's the best way to play it. It's like, because you feel so engaged looking at a screen like this, and you've got it up close, and you just got it in your hands, you're having a bit of a game, and I just love that it's so portable. You can wrap your hands around it. It's just like, There is so many reasons why I feel this is the way to go. And if they do Switch 2, I would be okay with a Switch 2 that has more powerful components in this same form factor. Like, this is the form factor I want. Or they could do video output, just put video output in here and make this a video output one, but not video output that needs a dock, but like something that you can charge and play at the same time. Like, put it on a TV, like I can play it like this, just do this, but instead of having it in a dock, you just put it in, bang, people can see what you're playing, and you're just over here playing it, you know? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean when I video out. But yeah, I've done a 15-minute video, and hopefully you've learned a thing or two about the Switch Lite. It's a lot cheaper than the full-size Switch, although if you shop around in the secondary market, the Switch Lite is probably the same price as this original Switch, so you can get either or. They're both kind of around the same price, I've found. But the reason why I chose Switch Lite over full-size Nintendo Switch that had TV capabilities was because the Joy-Cons can't be removed, because it is a dedicated handheld. And I love that it is a dedicated handheld. It's not trying to be a home console, this one. When Nintendo made the Switch Lite, they were very clear, I feel in the direction of Nintendo, that they wanted it to be standalone. It has to work completely as a handheld, and don't even think about TV. And it excels. It excels at what it's meant to be, and I am very happy to have the Switch Lite in my collection. As an early adopter of the Nintendo Switch that didn't like the original Nintendo Switch, I can tell you right now, this is the time to buy. So yeah, hope you've learned something, and I hope you catch me in the next one. Peace, and I'll catch you next time.